how to deal with change during times of uncertainty. Hello there, and thanks for connecting. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also to turn on the notifications. And feel free to also leave comments. Let me know where you're connecting from. So today I have 5 tips. These are based on my lessons learned on how to deal and manage with change during inevitable times, especially times which are beyond your own personal control. And if you have examples as well of how you've managed to overcome certain challenges, do let me know. First of all, change is not pretty. It can feel uncomfortable. It can bring in all sorts of different types of feelings, anxiety, fear, being scared and fearful of the unknown, and also feeling as though the circumstances you're trying to manage are changing beyond your control, and feeling powerless within that. So all sorts of emotions can happen. And the reason why I think it's important to speak about this topic is that we also, under the current COVID pandemic, it's shown us that change can come in. It can come in unexpectedly with a huge wave, kick us off our feet to the point that we end up playing catch up. So change can be planned or unplanned. And the lessons that I'm about to share with you are based on lessons I learned through change management processes that I was involved in my leadership and management position when I was in my 9 to 5 career. Just before I left, I'd gone through so many numerous changes, and the last job that I applied for and worked in for 3 years, for why am I going like 5 for 3 years, I also faced challenges. And before I even got onto that job, I had been in a career with like a charitable organization, and had gone through 4 or 5 periods of change processes. And these change processes included having to reapply for my job role, and also having to reapply, interview, go through the recruitment process, and unexpectedly unprepared due to economical changes. And sometimes it was just due to restructures going on internally within the organization, and other changes it was within like my remit in terms of the quality management role that I used to be in, development role to start off with, and I moved on to quality management. And within that, I got used to it because it was changes of systems and processes. But what I wasn't used to was about things that were beyond my control, in terms of senior management teams deciding that you're working on a specific project, then all of a sudden they decide that they had other ideas. Your idea was no longer feasible or could no longer apply, and they were going to implement. They wanted you to implement something different, or the whole organization was just going to go through an overhaul. So that in itself, the recruitment process, having to re-interview systems and processes which were beyond my control, and some nationwide, brought a lot of emotions within me. Some of it was frustration. Some of it was feeling like there was lack of communication or consistency in communication. The others, it was fear of a loss of my job, or fear of the loss of other, like, work colleagues, in terms of having to leave the organization, as well as the teams that I was supporting as well, having to go through processes with them to mention changes that were going to happen, and feeling the emotions through that as well. So it just seemed like it was like a turbulent emotional roller coaster, and one that was anxiety ridden. Then when I went into my next job, changes started to reoccur as well, systems and processes. But by that time, I'd got used to, because my role was development, it was quality management. I was used to the systems and changes. I had accepted at that time that, especially working for like local government, there was always going to be a change, and I couldn't control that. I could just ride along with the wave. With the recruitment structure, again, it brought on emotions, but I decided that at the same time, I also needed to monitor my own emotional response in terms of the changes that were happening. So we're going to move on to the lessons that I learned as a result of this, the career changes. And other changes that have happened in my life have also been as a result of developing a chronic pain condition, which I've spoken about in my other videos, known as fibromyalgia. That also forced me to accept change and to start living life in a different way, more than I'd ever expected before. To move outside of like my comfort zone, instead of being used to like 9 to 5 full-time career, to then develop like an entrepreneurship lifestyle, which could then accommodate my health condition. Okay, so I had no time to prepare for that. So this was unplanned, and then there are planned changes in life. So change, first of all, it's inevitable. It's about accepting that regardless, there's always going to be changes that happen in our life, personal and work life, career. What you have control of is you. So there are 5 tips. Let me start off before I digress any further. The first one is train your mind to adapt to change. Why you want to do this is that you're also protecting and guarding your well-being, because you are acknowledging that change is inevitable, it's going to happen. When you ride with the waves emotionally, you can then with everybody and the current and the external factors, you can start to lose yourself within all of that. So it's always best to say change is going to happen. Some of the change is going to be a passing moment. Some of it you're going to go through like emotions which you haven't expected before. Acknowledge those emotions. Then refocus in terms of your vision, where you want to go. Always have that in the back of your mind, about continuously fulfilling your life vision regardless of what's going on externally. So once you start to train your mind, you will start to see a better way of approaching things. Rather than riding with everybody else's emotions, you will feel like your destiny is within your own willpower. So I might be moving ahead of myself as well. So it's about being consciously aware and choosing how much you invest emotionally into something, especially if it's circumstances that are beyond your control. It's asking yourself questions such as, is it worth me investing in this? And if I invest emotionally in this, what are the benefits that I'm going to gain from it as a result of that? Okay. And when you're mindful like that, then at least you know what you're going into, and you also know yourself how you're going to manage as you go through the ride of the change emotionally. Is it going to help your well-being, or is it going to make it worse? Okay. Then number 2, be open to continuous learning and development processes. Again, this will put you in the driving seat, and you will feel in control regardless of what's going on externally. When you're open to continuous learning and development, you remain current with the times. You also remain in the driving seat in terms of continuously improving your skills according to the current climate. So I'll give you an example, like digital marketing, for instance, and social media marketing. That's an area that I focus on, and now I just focus on those 2. So those 2 areas, they're constantly changing, and I'm continuously learning and developing. If I didn't continue, then I would be focusing on things which were out of date. I wouldn't know how to adjust to the current climate because things would have moved on. So whatever field you're in, it's always best to stay in tune and in the lane going forward of improving your skills. These skills can be your professional career, what your life vision is, your passions, your purpose, and your reason why in life. And with education, you can never lose that, because then that will equip you to then, let's say for instance, if you lost your job, okay, I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody, but things do happen. So if you did, you would still feel empowered to be able to either apply for other positions or to go off and work as a consultant or a freelancer to help other people solve issues or problems and offer solutions, especially during financially, economical, or environmentally challenging times. There's always people who are always looking for a specific solution. So I hope this is all making sense. So this is where your skills, your knowledge, up-to-date knowledge, will come into fruition, because then you will, even though it may not come right away, you will still be able to help people, whether it be free, so that you can build your reputation, your brand, raise a brand awareness, and then be ready to offer paid services as well as part of your lessons learned process. Then moving on into 3, create and maintain your life vision plan. That actually should have been number 1. Okay, so you want to be ahead mentally, physically, and well-being wise, knowing what your life vision is going to be. Okay, so when you're very clear, regardless of whether you're in a career or in your personal life, then that is what intuitively will drive you forward. External factors may be happening. Let's say you're surfing along, there's currents, there's strong winds, waves, yes, but you still managing to row ahead or to surf, whichever it may be. These are my water skills, right? You can tell, not great at it, but you're still managing to coast along because you're steady on your board, you're steady in your boat, and you're able to take control. So your life vision is something that nobody can take away from you. It's sitting down and investing. I've got a 3 to 5 year plan. My 5-year plan is coming to an end this year, and I'll review it at the end of this year. What that includes is weekly, monthly, yearly goals, which are flexible to adapt to change, any change that's going to come along my way. My vision is something that nobody can take away from me, because I've got this path going forward that is still continuing to fight through regardless of the change. And the change is also acknowledging that you can't change it, but how can you mold and modify your life vision to fit the current environment, the storms that are taking place. And what I've noticed with life visions and life passions is that they don't change significantly, especially if it's external factors, because it's something you visualize, it's something that you've seen, it's your plan. All you're doing is fitting it in with the current climate. So at least you feel that you are at least in the driving seat. If you've never invested in doing that, and if you have any specific questions, drop a comment below. I'm happy to answer it. Let me move on to number 4. Okay, number 4, your emotional response to change and challenges. It's about being fully aware and alert to how you respond to changes. And then to ask yourself the biggest questions is, what is it that you fear specifically about change? List everything down. And then to also challenge yourself to ask yourself these questions about, what is the worst thing that you imagine? And then put another challenge. Is that fear valid? And how can you counteract it to make yourself feel like you've got a little bit more control? Because some of the fear stems from something that is unknown, something that is perceived from external factors or external forces, which might influence and steer you in the direction of everybody else. But when you evaluate what is within your control, you start to feel more like you've got a steady flow or control of what is going to happen next in your own life. You become less dependent on external factors to influence how you're going to be and how you're going to react to those changes, because you've got an intuitive life vision and a plan to move you forward. Number 5, the last one, set yourself challenging goals that will help you to push through your self-limiting beliefs and your fears. So self-limiting beliefs may come as a result of you being comfortable for years in a certain position in your work life, or they may come from cultural influences, from community influences. It's asking yourself about how much are you willing to like let go in order to reach your goal, and also how much are you willing to push yourself forward so that you're not held back by external factors. So for instance, with COVID, that's an environmental factor. That's something that none of us could control. But then there was also like news fear that was like driven like nationwide, everybody, you know, panicking. Within that, you can also make a choice as to whether you continue to respond to the fear that's happening as a collective, or you focus on your foundations of where you have been educating yourself about certain things, and then look after like your well-being, and look at that and say, yes, I am fearful of that. I am aware that it's happening. That is beyond my control. What I can control is here in the now, and the steps that I take forward in terms of how I can manage like my well-being effectively. Obviously, there's certain things that may happen that are beyond your control, but this is more about grounding you so that you feel like at least you have a little bit of control and in your driving seat going forward again. Okay, so the more you start to challenge yourself into overcoming self-limiting beliefs, the more you will look back. Like Steve Jobs used to say, is that when you look back, the dots will connect, and the dots going forward is what you have overcome looking back. Okay, what you have been able to overcome and challenge yourself, and then going forward you feel more confident to be able to realize that change is inevitable, change is going to happen, and it may be scary, but you're ready for it, you're ready to embrace it, and you're going to be in the driving seat. So the last things that I've written down, let me just read that. Remind yourself that each change that comes your way is a passing moment, even if it may not feel like it. And even though you feel like you cannot control it, focus on the key things that I also mentioned to help you to move along and beyond. Focus on your mission, your purpose, your life vision. That's going to make you stronger. And as an entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, or whatever type of entrepreneur you have chosen to become or you want to be, change is always part of the process. It's about accepting that with being an entrepreneur, you will embrace any change that comes your way and focus on looking on solutions. So I'll just go back briefly and just list down, say back to you what I've discussed, and you can find the detailed written content in my blog post. I'll drop a link below, and remember to hit the subscribe button, to share out my content. If you've enjoyed listening to this video, if you feel somebody can contribute to it as well, please do. I really appreciate it as well. Number one, train your mind to adapt to change and to accept change. Number two, be open to continuous self-development, learning over, consistently. I'm always listening to podcasts, always learning something new. Number three, create and maintain your life vision plan. Number four, monitor your emotional responses to change and ask yourself the challenging questions, the reasons you respond in such an emotional response, with such an emotional response. There's healthy responses, then there's unhealthy responses. What you want to get into is in the middle, where it's a healthy balance and outlook in life, so you feel that you're in control of your well-being. Number five, set challenging goals. Again, that will help you to overcome your fears and self-limiting beliefs. I hope the 5 tips that I've given you today have given you a little bit of like insight. And if you need any additional help, leave comments below, and also feel free to connect with me via Instagram to send me a private PM. I'm always up for coffee chat as I drop my Costa here. Okay, ciao for me for now, until next time.